My name is Gavin Evans, and this is my review of the 2021 movie Cinderella. And I knew this movie was going to be terrible from the second they announced a dude playing the fairy godmother. I'm just like, oh, it's going to be one of those movies, and yes it is. But then all the trailers and posters came in for this movie, and it kept looking worse and worse. But I think the real determining factor of it was when James Corden was dressed as a mouse in LA humping people's vehicles.
Let's get live!
I think that was a real good indicator of just how bad this movie would be, and yes, that is definitely the case. This movie is terrible. All the performances are absolutely atrocious. I'm not familiar too much with Camila Cabello. I like her song Crying in the Club, but the rest of her stuff I haven't heard, and she's a terrible actress. At no point does she feel genuine. It always just feels like it's someone acting. Not a single emotion, not a single action feels like it's genuine to the person. You can see through it every time she's on screen. She doesn't capture that grace that she's supposed to feel, and just nothing about her performance worked in any way. Billy Porter as a fairy godmother was an absolutely terrible decision made in every single possible way, and he's horrendous in this movie. He's painfully annoying, cringy, and it's just one of those performances that you're embarrassed to even watch. He's awful. Bronson somehow got involved with this movie, and he might be given the best performance only by default. He's still not very good. They just treat his character so seriously, but the way he acts is so over the top and silly, and if they leaned into that a bit more, I think his performance could have actually been really good, but because of how they took that character, it was just a bad performance.
Please welcome the wickedly talented one and only Adele.
Adele is also in this movie, and she plays the evil stepmother, and she does a great job as Elsa in Frozen. She was fine in Enchanted, but she's really bad here. Just like Camila Cabello, at no point does she feel like a genuine character. It always feels like she's acting, and she is really bad here. That said, she is still a talented singer. And you know what, let's get into the music. This movie is 90% a jukebox musical, which I was not expecting, and from the second the jukebox musical aspect began, I was cringing so much. The music in this movie is embarrassing for all involved. There was just moments where I'm just like, what are they doing? Don't they know how embarrassing this is? And yeah, like all the versions of these songs in this movie are just painful. Like nobody would ever choose to listen to this movie's version of Somebody to Love over Queen's. Nobody would be like, oh yeah, let's listen to the cover version from Cinderella. It all sounded awful. The dance choreography just lacked any magic. It just felt very small scale to a fault. And it's just, the choreography is really bad. Like it's the laziest kind of dance choreography there is. So the entire musical aspect of this movie doesn't work. The only original song I can think of is, it's probably called One in a Million. I don't know for sure if that's the name. It's Camila Cabello's main song that she sings throughout the movie. And I'm sure the song isn't that bad, but the autotune is so apparent and so obvious that it really does take away from the song. So it's not like a terribly written song, but they should have done a few more takes, tone down the autotune a bit, and maybe it would have sounded better, because the way that it exists in the movie is really bad. And you know what? Another aspect of the singing that's just awful is that the lip syncing is just so obvious. It always feels off by half a second, and that just takes you out of the moment entirely. Whenever anyone's singing and they're just mousing the words, you can just tell that they're mousing it and that they're putting the audio in after, which is what they do for most musicals. But when you're watching it, it's so apparent that you can't watch it and be like, oh, I'm totally in this moment, because it constantly takes you out of it. You can even tell that the actors are slowly moving their hands so that they can then follow a pattern with the CGI afterwards. Just everything about the filmmaking in this movie is so obvious. And the costume design and the production design is really bad. It all looks like a movie set. At no point does it look real. The costumes look really cheap and low budget. Like when you watch the 2015 Cinderella, they put so much effort and time into that dress, and it shows. And this one, it's just like, oh, it just looks like a dress that you could pick up from anywhere. It's just all very underwhelming aspects of the movie. Oh, and I totally forgot to mention the Prince character, but the guy who plays him does a really bad job, and there's not an ounce of chemistry between him and Cinderella. Like, I do not buy the romance between them for a single second. But I'm going to go ahead and talk about some directions they make in the last act, so slight spoiler warning for this story that has existed forever. But they go full social commentary. Because Cinderella doesn't want the prince, even though she's in love with him. She wants to pursue her own dreams of making dresses. And it's as bad as it sounds. It is an absolutely horrendous element of the movie. First of all, you don't really buy the fact that this is a lifelong passion of it for her. Like, they tell you that time and time again, but at no point do you actually feel it. That entire element was just very cringy. It is very woke, as the kids say, and the social commentary is so on the nose and in your face that it's impossible not to be annoyed by it. It is at no point do the actions of these characters in the last act feel genuine. It just feels like they're trying to get across a message, and it's just so terribly handled. Just the entire girl boss element and the evil stepmother is just like, oh, I had my own dreams once, but they were destroyed, so therefore I have to destroy your own dreams too. It's just so cringy. Oh my goodness. Actually, the whole family doesn't feel that bad. Like, it's a big point in all the other Cinderella movies that the stepmother and the stepsisters are abusive, and that's not really the case here. They're not really the nicest, but they're not that bad, to be honest. And the dialogue, any movie that has someone going, yes, Crane. Look, I'm not going to drag this review out any further. This movie is atrocious. It is the worst movie I've seen this year. There's very few moments of it that works, which is that one song, One in a Million. If it was re-recorded a couple of times, it could have sounded decent, with way less autotune, mind you. And Pierce Bronson isn't terrible, even though he isn't good. But that's about where my positives end. This movie's terribly directed. Everything about it looks and feels fake, and no point does it feel like actual characters doing actual things. It just feels like actors following a script on a set that looks and feels fake. There's not a single second in this movie that anything feels real. This movie is awful and terrible, and just no one should ever watch it ever. I watch it so you don't have to. So, anyways, I'm gonna go ahead and give Cinderella, the 2021 version, a 0.5 out of 10. Okay, did you watch Cinderella? Why would you do such a thing? Let me know in the comments down below. Make sure you like, make sure you comment, make sure you subscribe. Stay tuned for some more videos soon, and Gavin out.